Good evening, everyone, and welcome you all once again in this workshop come FDP on optimum approaches towards IoT system design. I welcome our speaker, Mr. Vikas Kumar Sinha, who has explained to us the basics of IoT system design in a very comprehensive way. He made us apprehend cyber physical system, present scenario of IoT systems, and how it is being predicted to be more evolved by year 2025, wherein around 75 billion devices will be IoT based. In yesterday's session, we got to know the complete development life cycle of IoT design system, its design considerations, and few basics of its architecture design. In the end of that session, we also got to know various areas obligatory to balance out this versatile technology. With these concepts in our mind, we all are keenly looking forward to attend today's session of this workshop. So I would like to request Mr. Vikas for starting session for today. Vikas, sir.
Hello everyone. So today we are going to learn few more new things. And before starting, I would like to thank everyone for appearing yesterday in quite reasonable numbers. And the major thing that I liked about yesterday's session was your feedback. So especially the improvement feedback, the feedback that you shared, how we can improve few more things related to presentation. So okay. So I think we'll jump to today's session and we'll see how it goes. And I will share my screen in a while. So let's get started. Okay, so today we are going to talk about what is the architecture of an IoT system, and I mean what are different components that undergoes or that are considered when we are going to design about an IoT system. And then we are going to touch upon one very important topic, which is generally overlooked whenever we talk about IoT, and that topic is basically the different stakeholders and ecosystem of an IoT design or an IoT system. So other than technicality, there are a few more things that goes into designing an IoT related stuff, especially from ecosystem point of view. So we will talk about different parts of the ecosystem, and then we will talk a bit more in detail about all those ecosystems, what are different components that are part of that ecosystem, and how those components affect the design or affect the overall IoT system. And after that, we'll also take an example of smart home system, a very basic example, just and that example is majorly being discussed to make a connection between the basic architecture that we are going to present and the ecosystem that we are going to present, so that we kind of compare it with an example. And then I will talk about three major challenges that we face in any IoT device or in any IoT system. And then I will also give a hint of what are we going to see tomorrow in tomorrow's session, what design are we going to see tomorrow, and what we should have a prior knowledge about when we are going to attend the session of tomorrow. So I will also give everyone a task, not a task, I would say. I will advise people to read something before coming to tomorrow's session so that whatever I'm presenting is going to be making sense to them. Because tomorrow we are going to dive a bit more deeper, and that will be using lots of industry grade or real world grade components when we are going to design our system. So it will be a very simple design. I mean, which looks very simple when we are just talking in the terms of a lab design or something, but it really undergoes a lot of things in the background when we design even a very small or very light IoT system. So that we'll discuss tomorrow, and I will give a flavor of that in today's session itself. So let's start. So I will start with the agenda. So today, before jumping to the session, I will also take a recap. However, Sarita Bhan ma'am already gave a brief of what we discussed yesterday, but I will also give a brief again just to make sure that we always keep ourselves connected with the basic foundation of the IoT that we discussed yesterday. That's why yesterday I spent considerable time in explaining what in reality the IoT is and why shall we care about it and what value is it going to bring. because everything that we are going to follow in next 3 days is eventually going to be linked with that definition. So we'll talk about that definition again. And I will also recap on different steps that we discussed yesterday, which undergo in designing any system, not just IoT system. So we'll recap that as well. So first, and after that, we'll talk about different layers that goes into an IoT architecture, which will be followed by the ecosystem and the components in the ecosystem. And then we'll talk about, we call it 3S in IoT system. And I will also add in few more things on an ad hoc basis over there. So this is the recap. So I will just explain. So as we discussed yesterday, that an IoT system is basically an enabler. Enabler for whom? Enabler for us to live a better life, a more effective life, or a more effective experience. And how do we achieve that? We achieve that by leveraging the technology. And from technology, what we mean that we use some connectable devices which can be connected to the internet, and those devices have some computation, some sensing, and some algorithm kind of related stuff embedded in themselves. And then we connect those with the internet, and then we enable them to exchange and interact with the means of data. And then that data is given to some sophisticated algorithm, which eventually runs the application and gives us the desired output. So that is what IoT in real sense is. And that's what we discussed yesterday. And in addition to that, we spoke about 7 or 8 stages that any product goes into when it is getting designed. And then we spoke about different phases in a actual product development, which was like the very first proto, the lab proto, which is followed by engineering proto. From proto I mean prototype, and which is again followed by the final end product. So we discussed different things and different nuances related to all these 3 phases. And I forgot to mention one more thing. We also discussed 3 overlapping as well as distinct terms or the devices or systems that sometimes gets confused with IoT, which is cyber physical system, embedded system, and wireless sensor network. And all these 3, you may get a hint of how gets embedded inside an IoT system. So as we progress in today's session, you will get a hint of how these things are integrated. So I think that was all about yesterday's recap, and the reason or the motivation of recapping and spending time in recap, so that you always keep a connection of today's learnings with the basic foundation. Okay, so first I will show you the very basic architecture of an IoT system. Generally, in IoT system, if I have to take a bird's eye view, or if I have to take in a explain it to a layman, so IoT is actually comprising of 3 layers. One is at the node layer, or at the sensor layer, or at the actuation layer. The other one is at the gateway layer, and the third one is at the cloud layer. So this is how it actually looks like. And as you can see, the bottom one is actually, we call it perception layer, right? So in perception layer, what we are getting, we are basically having some sensors which are connected with several actuators and all, and that has some kind of processing as well available in it, which is connected to internet via the network layer, which is comprising of the routers or the gateways. So these routers and gateways sits between our devices or the nodes and the cloud, where we are running our application as well as we are getting the storage. So that's just one minute. Okay, so yeah. So so this is the 3-layer architecture that we generally see as a layman when we talk about any IoT system. However, there are lots of stuff that goes inside these 3 layers, which we are going to discover in next step. So yeah, so just keep note of what different layers of the IoT architecture are. And now we'll talk about the IoT ecosystem. And before talking about the ecosystem, I think it's important to recall what ecosystem is. So basically, ecosystem is a group. I mean, if I have to recall what we used to study when we were in school or in colleges, so it was like a group of living and non-living organisms that live in and interact with each other in a specific environment. This is something that we used to study when we were kids. And if we have to translate it into technological context or in the IoT context, so basically it's an interrelated group of objects, processes, people that actually coexist and interact with each other in a specific setup to fulfill the actual objective of the IoT system or whatever system that we have designed. Okay, so we'll go. So basically, there are six different layers or six different components in an IoT system. But if there is no specific term or there is no specific definition for it, but based on whatever we can foresee, we can divide it into six different components or six different parts. So we'll go to these one by one. First, we'll talk about what these parts are, and then we'll dive a bit deeper into every component of it. So at the very first stage, we have the nodes that is called the acquisition part of the ecosystem. And these are the very first layer. These are the part of the perception layer, which we just discussed in the previous slide, which is followed by the access layer. So access layer is basically comprising of gateways and other network devices, which actually connect our nodes to itself as well as to other portions of the IoT ecosystem. And the next portion is basically the analyze part of the ecosystem or the analysis part of the ecosystem, which actually takes place in the backend near the server or the cloud. And so as you can see, the access part of the ecosystem is providing a chain between the node and the server or the cloud. So these are the three things that we just saw in the previous slide. As I was telling that the three layers that we discussed in the previous slide are the very basic one, which is most of a bird eye view, but there are lots of things that goes inside. And so the next one is the interaction layer or the interaction part of the IoT ecosystem. So basically this interaction part is nothing but the application layer where we have the user interface or different other kind of applications that we find when we are really accessing any of the IoT related stuff. Just a moment, I'm facing some issue with my slides. Give me 1 minute, please. Okay, now it's fine. And then, okay, before jumping to next part, so generally these four parts are something that a designer or that a user sees. And we generally assume that that's all about the ecosystem. But in addition to this, we have two more components which we generally don't see as a designer. So one is the integration. So integration part is related to the business integration kind of thing, where the business entities make use of our IoT related stuff that we are getting, or the value or the data that we are getting from the IoT. And then the last, but one major part of this ecosystem is the governance, where we have the standardization bodies, we have the government, and we have some market regulators as well, which comes into picture. So as I mentioned initially, that an ecosystem is an interaction of all the stakeholders or all the components of that particular system, right? So not just technical stuff, but business as well as the governance part also goes into it. And as a designer, we generally just focus on the four blocks, the green color blocks that we are seeing, which are node, gateway, then cloud, and then user interaction or the application layer. So now we'll talk about one by one of these components and or these layers, and then we'll talk about what are different components of these layers, and we will talk a bit more about the technicalities that are involved in these layers. So up to now, it was more of philosophical stuff, but now we will have more of the technical stuff. Okay, so the first part, the node part or the acquisition part. So basically, acquisition part is nothing but an embedded system. And if you recall from yesterday's session, embedded systems are resource constrained devices which have got some sensors, some kind of processing unit, as well as some kind of connectivity unit. So different components that goes into this part. We'll go one by one. Most of you must be aware of these parts, but let's go because sometimes we skip or sometimes we forget to address some of the parts. So the very first part that goes into this system is, or this block is the power module. So the power module over here in a node either is the battery or a solar related system or the solar some solar batteries or something like that, or sometimes it may be the line powered as well. So power is one of the major components that sometimes we overlook. Okay, before going into more technicality, let me clarify one thing. So today we are going to talk in the terms of phase two of the product development. So if you remember or if you recall from yesterday's session, we talked about three phases: the alpha phase or the lab proto, then to the engineering proto, and then to the end product. So today we'll talk about different components that goes into consideration when we have to really design a system which is going to be very close to an end product. And that's why I spoke about power module. If we are talking about the lab proto, then we don't really care much about power module. We just assume that power is available. But here I mentioned about power module because this is one of the very important things that people oversee or just forget about thinking this particular thing. So battery, so the power module can be powered up by the battery or by the line or the solar. Based on the power source, we take few more things into the design considerations, which I will just talk when I come to those components later on. And then the next part in this node side is the sensor, because these are the eyes, ears, or other senses of the system. So based on your application, you have different kind of sensors that are going to be in line with your application. Then sensor is followed by the processor, which is generally an MCU, not an MPU, but sometimes in some of the nodes you may see an MPU. Okay, let me clarify what MCU and MPU is. So MCU is microcontroller unit and MPU is microprocessing unit. So MPU are more powerful than MCUs, and MPUs are generally a SoC which has lots of other components integrated into it. So it can be a 32-bit MCUs or something. Let me elaborate a little bit more on MCUs. So generally nowadays, the trend is we don't just buy an MCU, we buy a SoC from any company, and most of the vendors nowadays are having chips which has the RF engine and the RF protocol related machine, everything integrated inside the chip itself. So nowadays, we don't just go for an MCU, we go for a complete system on chip, which has got the RF related stuff as well as the libraries already inbuilt. And then the another important component of this layer is the software. So there can be two kind of softwares that we may write that depends on our application. If our application is slightly more advanced or really has to implement lots of stuff, then we generally have the real-time operating system. Generally, we use FreeRTOS. And one more thing I would like to emphasize that whatever I'm talking here, you will see these things in tomorrow's architecture. So tomorrow, the architecture that we are going to talk about or the architecture that we are going to build will be addressing all these points. So coming back to where we left just. So the RTOS is real-time operating system. So that is just a very scaled down version of an operating system, which helps us in calling different libraries and scheduling different processes in an application. And just one thing, there may be, I mean, some things I may be explaining which, if not clear to anyone or if they don't know about that, maybe they can post the questions on their WhatsApp group, which they are having a part of, and then I will get a notification of whatever queries are there, if these kind of basic queries you have. Or I would also encourage you guys to go and Google out some of the things if you don't, uh, if you are not aware of. For example, RTOS, some people may not be aware of. So the next part, the next thing in the software that you see is bare metal. So basically, bare metal is a term for the software that we write on MCUs, which doesn't really use any operating system, where we just write everything on our own. And bare metal programming is done when we have lots of resource constraints. For example, the memory in the flash or the programmable memory of your chip is very low, and you have a bigger application to run. You can't afford to have libraries, so you go for bare metal application or bare metal software design, where you write everything on your own, which is painful and fun at the same time. And then another important aspect is connectivity. So here in the connectivity, I would like to emphasize on one thing. Generally, when we talk about IoT, generally people have this kind of thing in their imagination that it is going to be wireless all the time, but it not necessarily be wireless. It can be wired as well. So in wired, there are few technologies that are in use, not majorly in India, I would say, but there is one technology which I will explain over here, because I got an opportunity to explain to you one of the important technology which you may feel interested to know when we talk about it. So there can be wireless connectivity which may have the RF module, and the RF module can have 2.4 gigahertz or the sub gigahertz RF module we can use. And when we talk about wired, so you see the term PLM on the screen. So PLM is power line modem. So this is a technology in which you can use the power lines of your house. For example, the wiring that is running in your house as a communication media. So you can plug one of your instrument or one of your appliance to the power socket, and other appliance to other power socket, and they can communicate with each other on the power line. This technology is not that much prevalent in India because we have lots of noise related issues in the power line, but it is quite prevalent in Europe. And yeah, it's something interesting that I would encourage you guys to go and explore a bit about. And then in connectivity part only, there is connectivity protocols, for example, Zigbee, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and the M&M is basically meters and more, which is a power line module related or power line modem uh, related standard or related connectivity protocols. So the things that I'm discussing over here, or the components that I'm discussing, or the examples that I'm giving over here are not extensive. There are many more possibilities or many more modules, but I can't cover everything over here. But it will give you a spark so that you can go and check on Google, and you can post questions to me, or you can post questions to different blogging sites as well, where you can interact with others as well. And similarly, in the connectivity part only, there is another thing which is the messaging protocols. For example, MQTT, which is like a messaging protocol where you put your payload and communicate with the gateway to pass on your message securely. And on your gateway also, you are using the same messaging protocol. So your gateway and the device both are able to encode as well as decode the message. And then one of the most critical aspect that unfortunately people overlook, and that is one of the major reason why IoT is still not that much prevalent in the market, is the security. So let's talk a little bit about security. Why security is important, and why we should always be careful about security. So basically, security. I mean, if you are having an IoT system where your components or your nodes are connected, but anyone can connect to it. What I mean to say, suppose take an example. So you have a smart home, and you say you have a robot vacuum cleaner. Let's take an example. So that robot vacuum cleaner is connected to your smart home ecosystem, but that robot vacuum cleaner is not that secure, let's say, and some intruder gets access to your vacuum cleaner or something, so they can just get hand on it and then they can just make it run whenever they want to run it. Okay, vacuum cleaner may not be a very good example. Let's take an example of your smartwatch. So if your smartwatch is not secure enough, and if somebody else can get hold of it, they can really mess around with it. What they can do, they can just play around with your data, and then they can just steal whatever your health related parameters, which can be sensitive, and then they can tweak it around, and maybe they can tweak some more things. And another critical example where if security is compromised is going to be a big problem is the door lock. Nowadays we have digital door lock. Suppose if somebody gets hack of it and somebody gets access to it, then you are gone basically. So anybody can come to your house if they know how to hack your system. So security is very important. In tomorrow's design, I will also explain how to go about, or what are different security related stuff that we can implement to make our system more secure. So security is one of the most important aspects of any of the layer of an IoT system. So let's recap on this system, or on this layer. So this layer majorly talks about nodes. Nodes are nothing but embedded systems with processing, with the processor, with the connectivity device, as well as the software, which incorporates security as well as your algorithm control and messaging algorithm. So these are the major components of a node or of an acquisition system, or the acquisition part of your IoT infrastructure or IoT ecosystem. Then the second part is the access. So access is basically your gateway part in your ecosystem. So this is how it will look like. And generally your gateway is also kind of embedded system, but these are bit more sophisticated embedded system, which generally uses application class processor or application class microcontrollers. So let's go one by one. So major components are similar to what we discussed in the node, but there are few addition to this block. So first thing is again the power, but generally the gateways are not that much power hungry. Okay, when we spoke, okay, I will talk about this just now. So generally your gateway are line powered. So the reason why our gateways are line powered is because gateways have to run multiple protocols. So what I mean from multiple protocols, so your gateway will be connected to different or many devices that are there in your home or in your IoT ecosystem. It may be connected to a device that may be running on Bluetooth. It may be connected to another device which may be running on Wi-Fi, and it has to connect with the internet. So it has to connect with the Ethernet as well, right? So it has to have many modules in it. It's not like just node where you can have BLE or Wi-Fi or Zigbee, just one module. Generally in gateway, you have different modules to support interoperability of different protocols. That's why I bolded it out that it is generally line powered. So it will have, as I mentioned, that it is an application level embedded system device. So the processor or the controller that we use in gateway are generally an application level MCU or application level MPU that will be called if we talk about ARM is basically the architecture, the ARM architecture, then it will be Cortex A class processor. I don't know if you all are aware of ARM or Cortex. So if you are not aware of it, maybe you can go and Google it out, or maybe in QA session, if you need, I can give you slight insight into it. And then when we talk about software, so generally in gateway, it will be running on RTOS or Linux. Generally, it will be running on Linux because RTOS may not be that featureful or that feature rich to really take care of so many threads or so many processes in parallel. So generally, we see that it is running on Linux, and it will also have some algorithm for AI and machine learning. When we talk about it, let's touch upon another point. You might have heard about edge computing. So that's where these algorithms comes into picture. So what I mean to it, generally, if I talk about the three-layer architecture which we spoke in the starting of this presentation, so assume that your sensor is generating data every 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And if we relay the entire data to the cloud, then your data storage capacity will be, I mean, you need to have a very huge capacity to store the data. In order to avoid that, what we generally do, we filter out data. And how we filter out? We filter out it at two levels. So the very first filtering will be happening at the node level if your node has got a reasonable capable processor. So we'll filter out some of the data. So when we filter out there, what we generally filter out, we filter out the error data. Some data may not be good, some data may have some error. So we filter out that at node level itself. And then we relay that data to the gateway. Now what gateway does, instead of just relaying entire data to the cloud, they process that data. And then if they find that there is some sense of sending that data to cloud, then only they send. Otherwise, they do the computing over there and some over there to filter out data. And then in addition to this, there are some AI or machine learning based algorithm also runs at the edge itself or at the gateway itself, with which they can take some local actions. And the reason why the edge computing has become so popular nowadays, we'll touch upon in the last slide as well, but I will, since we are going through this point, let me touch upon here as well. So what happens sometimes, see, the connectivity which we just discussed in the previous slide may be wired or wireless. And generally, the RF connectivity is prone to lots of environmental condition interferences. Suppose there is a lightning or suppose there is rain or something, some physical environmental change that can alter your RF connectivity and your node goes out of connection with the gateway or your gateway goes out of connection with the cloud. So in that case, your entire chain is broken. So in order to cater to these kind of problems where your chain, even if your chain is broken, your device is capable of taking some action on its own, we provide some kind of algorithms which are generally AI or machine learning based at the gateway level itself, so that if your node or your gateway is out of connection with your cloud where you are supposed to do all the computation, it can do some local computation for a while and keep things running. And as soon as you are connected back to your cloud, it can then let the cloud know what has happened and what is the current state. So that's why at the software point, I emphasize a bit that we need to have a better processor, we need to have a better software, we need to have a better quality operating system running over here so that we can run lots of or some of the sophisticated algorithm there itself. And as we saw in the node, same way in the gateway as well, we'll have the connectivity. We can have RF or we can have wired connectivity based on what connectivity we want to have with the node itself. And similar protocols, connectivity as well as messaging protocols are getting used at the gateway itself. So it is quite similar to what we had in the node, but the one major difference is in your gateway level, you need to have support of multiple protocols and multiple connectivities because it has to be interoperable. It shouldn't be like it only supports Wi-Fi, so you can only connect the Wi-Fi based nodes. That is not the case in practicality. You can have nodes which may be running on BLE, which may be running on Wi-Fi, which may be running on Zigbee. So your gateway should be capable of connecting to each different protocols, each different connectivity. And then a new addition to this as compared to node is the networking connectivity. Since your gateway is sitting as a access point between your nodes and your cloud, so it has to have a connection with the networking, with the internet or the internet service provider. So that is one of the important aspects or the important addition that we see at the gateway level, that it can be directly connected to the internet. However, you can have direct connectivity to the internet at the node level itself, but again, then your node will be more power hungry. Your node will has to have a better processor, because then it has to run TCP/IP library, and it has to run some phi or some, okay, I don't know, because if the reason why I stopped, because when I spoke about phi, I thought of explaining why we shouldn't be implementing that at node level. So basically, if you are using an Ethernet adapter at the node level, it needs more power to run its phi. And that's why we generally try to avoid running our Ethernet or the TCP/IP related stuff at the node level. That's why I didn't mention it there. And then security. Again, all the layers of your IoT should have security. So here as well, you need to have security related stuff so that nobody else can compromise without any authorized access. Device management. Sorry, I forgot to mention this thing. Device management. So you remember yesterday when I spoke about the golden principles of any system design, I touched upon one point, that it should be scalable. So when scalability comes into picture, especially in the context of IoT, when we say that we are going to the next scale, or we are going to scale our system, what we really mean that we are going to have more nodes connected to it. And when we have more number of nodes connected to an IoT system or to a gateway system, then we need to have a management scenario that can commission those devices, that can monitor health of those devices. I mean, from devices, I mean nodes, that can commission those nodes flawlessly, that can monitor those nodes, whether those are alive or whether they are having some issues. They should have capability of upgrading those nodes or debugging some of the things related to those nodes. All these kind of capabilities comes under device management. And device management is one of the major aspects of an IoT system. Security, device management, and robustness. These three are the major important aspects in the IoT, which we will touch in I think the last slide of today's presentation. But we kind of touched upon those aspects over here when I discussed about different components of the access part of the ecosystem, or the gateway part of the ecosystem. Then we talk about the analyze part of the system, or the analysis part of the system. And when we talk about analysis part of the system, we are majorly talking about the backend. So from backend, what I mean, maybe it can be your own data warehouse, or it can be your own storage system, or it can be in the cloud based on your application or based on your own architecture, how you are going to design it. So yeah, I just mentioned this thing. So what it really does. So basically, first thing that it does is also the device management. So from device management, what I mean, so your cloud is connected to the gateway, but eventually your gateways are connected to the node. So eventually, if you trace back this entire chain, so your cloud or your backend should be able to manage each and every individual node. I mean, it doesn't matter how you are going to reach to those nodes. Those can be directly connected to the cloud if they have the internet connectivity, and they can be routed through gateway. But eventually, whatever devices are available in your network, or whatever devices are available in your IoT system, those all going to have uh, what we call it, a registry in your cloud, and your cloud should be capable of managing all those devices based on whatever requirement that arises over there. And yeah, second thing is the storage. So as we spoke that IoT is nothing yesterday, that IoT is nothing but an enabler of exchange and the exchange and the interaction of the data. So this data has to go somewhere, right? So the cloud or the backend is the place where we are dumping this entire data. And in order, there are different mechanisms that we adopt to kind of cut down the amount of data that we need to store, which we discussed in our previous section, that Sometimes we curtail some of the data or discard some of the unuseful data at the node level, and sometimes we filter it at the gateway level. But eventually, that data has to go to the cloud, and at the cloud, you need to have a database management system, which based on your requirement, what kind of query you want to have, what kind of access to the data you want to have. But eventually, the data management, the eventual database management will happen at analyze or the storage or the cloud level. And then the next part, or one of the most crucial part of this particular component of the IoT ecosystem is the algorithm, because you have to make sense of that data. You're not generating data just for fun, right? So you're going to make some sense of that data, and that sense will come from algorithm. So you can have some dedicated algorithm, and generally nowadays in the trend we call it AI or machine learning. So your AI or machine learning engine will be running in the cloud. So you don't really need to bother about things at your gateway or at your node level for the processing. All the processing will take place, especially the complex processing will take place at the cloud level, because at the cloud level you can increase or decrease your processing power based on the subscription that you are going to have from your cloud provider. You have bigger machines, virtual machines, or bigger computers at the cloud that can really churn out a lot of chunk of data, and then they can make some analytics and these kind of thing over there. So algorithm is another critical aspect that happen at this layer. And then analytics, so it is also quite related to the algorithm part. So you can see you can have inferences out of the data that you saw. So whatever output your AI or machine learning algorithms might have given, you can take an analyzed output from there itself, and you can see different trends. API management. So generally for different kind of applications, you have different APIs, and I will go into detail of this in tomorrow's session, because in tomorrow's application we are going to make use of lots of APIs that are available from AWS. So I will talk a bit more in detail about API, but today I will just explain that APIs are nothing but, you can say, these are like inbuilt functions. So it's something like, if this thing happens, you have to take this action. So these kind of APIs are inbuilt in the cloud, and these APIs are invoked based on whatever insights that you got from the data. Dashboard and configuration tool. So configuration tool generally used for the device management, and the dashboard is basically to see the data that you just analyzed using the analytics. And sometimes you also use your dashboard to tweak some of the parameters or really manage some of the attributes of your nodes or your IoT devices. So that also runs at the cloud level itself. And the major reason why we are running all these things at the cloud level is to have less load of computing at the edge and the gateway. And second attribute why we go for the cloud based computing or go for the cloud related aspects is the scalability, because generally these providers, especially the major 3 or 4 providers, which are AWS, Google, your Microsoft Azure, your ThingsWorks and all. So what these guys or these companies provide to the customer, that you can scale your system and they will charge you based on whatever scale that you are running your system at. What I mean to say, if tomorrow you have more number of devices connected to your system, then you can purchase more processing power, you can purchase more space over there, and then you can pay as you grow. Okay, the next is the interaction layer. So interaction layer or the interaction part is basically the place where user gets connected to these devices. So the reason why we designed, the very first reason why we entered into IoT was the motivation to make our life or make our experience better, right? So that means a user exists in the system, but sometimes we just forget about the user, but user is the most integral part of the system. So when we say interaction, it is basically going to provide us a layer of means or something with which we can interact with our different system. And for that, maybe I will refer to some other slide as well if need arises. Let me see. Just a moment, I see some pop-ups in the chat. Let me just take a look if there's something. Okay, okay,
You may continue, Vikas, sir.
okay,
Not
okay,
to
okay,
worry.
okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, so this is basically the application layer. So where the application really lies. So what I mean to say from application, let's take an example. Suppose, what kind of example shall I take? Okay, let's say that health. Let's take the example of health, and we'll take it later when we go around other aspect of the slide. So, why it's not running? Okay. So at the interaction layer, we have the UI, the user interface, right? And the user interface can be your web-based application, can be your desktop-based application, can be your mobile-based application, or maybe your wearable device-based application or the user interface. And using that user interface, you can really track around lots of stuff. For example, I think one of the image which is quite visible on this is of a web-based application. And here, if you can see, with your user interface, you are able to analyze different sensors-based data, and then you are able to analyze and see what nodes are currently connected and where is your gateway, where are your nodes. So the green dots that you are seeing, those are like your nodes which are connect. This is like this example is more of building automation or the smart home kind of scenario where you can see you have lots of nodes which are connected to your gateway. And here you can see you have two gateways. One is shown in the green color and one is shown in the purple color, which eventually is connected to another gateway. So there are three gateways basically. Two are like access point and one is like gateway. And that gateway is basically connected to your cloud device with which all the data is getting processed, and eventually a user is able to see all the analyzed data in their application. So this is one of the major component at this layer which makes you able to interact with the system. So so with your user interface, you are able to interact with the system. You can configure it. You can see different analytics, and you can really control different things. For example, if you want to switch on or switch off some of the equipment or some of the appliances, you can use your user interface to do it. Authentication, yeah. So as we spoke about security at node, at gateway, and at the cloud, same way when a user wants to access to the system, there has to have an authentication layer built in there with which your system or your cloud based ecosystem can identify whether the user who is trying to enter into the system is authorized or not. And in tomorrow's design, I will also explain by showing one of the standard authentication system that is available from Amazon, which you can integrate very easily in your IoT system. So whatever, I'm again reiterating this thing, whatever components that we are seeing over here, we eventually are going to touch upon or cover everything in the system that we are going to design tomorrow practically. I mean, I won't be showing you a demo, but I will be showing you what are different components that are available from industry standard service provider to tackle and to address all these major components that we are talking in today's session. And at this interaction level, as you were kind of interacting with your eyes and with your hands using your user interface, you can also interact with your digital assistant using your voice, like your Alexa or your Amazon Echo or your Google speakers. You can just speak to these smart home assistants, and then you can command through all these things. This will also, I will integrate in my design, and I will explain to you how this works in reality. and variables. So in variables also you have some kind of applications as well as some kind of controls with which you can really go into, interacting with your IoT ecosystem. And if you guys have used your smartwatches, so you can see even you can unlock or you can access your phone using your wearable device. So that also gives you another layer of interaction with which you can control or communicate with your IoT system. Automation, yeah, you can automate by, generally for automation you need some other APIs which has to be there. So automation is more of a luxury that you can say on this particular layer, because this particular layer is majorly meant for manual intervention, but you can also automate lots of things. And there are some of the APIs which are available at this level as well, with which you can configure it from your user interface as well, if else kind of condition that you can interface from here itself based on your requirement. For example, if you're not feeling well and you want your air con to run at higher temperature as compared to the lower temperature that you generally use, you can create those kind of automated APIs using your user interface at this layer itself. So the four layers that we just talked about are the major layers that we generally see in an IoT system as an engineer or as a designer. And next two layers, which we are going to talk about, makes generally are invisible to us. We generally don't care much about these, but these are integral part of our system. So one of the part is the business and the other part is the governance. So so in the integrate layer, as we spoke when we were talking about the ecosystem block diagram, is the business entities that come into picture. And I will take an example of smart grid, that how a smart grid entity is really leveraging the IoT related stuff and how they are a part of the ecosystem. And maybe you guys can take note of one thing. There's a company called Enel, which is an Italian company. So they are like a utility company and they are pioneers in IoT related stuff and making use of IoT related stuff. Maybe if you are curious, you can go and Google about that company and their IoT or the smart grid related stuff. So you basically integrate the insights that you got from your IoT analytics into bill payment, and also whenever there is a billing cycle, all these things can be automated and it can be made more useful for the user, as well as it can be made more automated. Customer relationship manager management. So basically you can use the CRM or the customer relationship related stuff by making insights from the IoT data. For example, okay, let's not take an example over here. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. Then enterprise resource planning kind of stuff can also be taken into account or can also be solved by different data that is getting generated from our IoT related stuff. Let me emphasize on one thing, which is the essential part over here. So eventually with IoT, we are generating lots of data, and at the cloud, we are making sense of that data, right? At this layer or at this level, we are basically integrating whatever results that we got from data to our business case. So you can take it to any kind of application, not just smart grid. You can take it to any kind of application. The point I'm trying to make over here is that business is an integral part of our IoT system. And the reason why it's an integral part of the system, because there is a reason or there is a motivation of these companies to utilize the data. Let me take an example and share it with you. So let's take an example of the smart grid. So, so earlier, if we talk about the electricity management in our country, everything was manual. There used to be a person who used to come to your neighborhood to take the reading of your meter, and then there will be somebody who will be sending out letters of the electricity bill. And then if somebody is kind of stealing the electricity, they could never know, I mean, what is happening. And if somebody is improvising with the meter, like changing something in the meter, they will never know, I mean, what is happening, because everything was manual, right? So all these things nowadays are taken care by IoT, the smart metering IoT, where the meter is smart enough that it takes the reading, send it to the company so that they can generate the bill. They can have an insight into how the billing cycle has changed, and if there is a drastic change, they can take action based on that. That they can be alarmed whether there is a theft or whether there is someone in the house or not. So these kind of analytics they can make from their usage pattern, which they got from their cloud or from their backend, right? In addition to this, there is another thing which had come into consideration in 2013 and 14. There had been some blackouts. So in India, I'm not sure if you guys can recall, there was an instance, I forgot whether it was in 2013 or 14. We didn't have electricity for almost 20 hours, and there was a huge grid failure. And the reason why it all happened, okay, let me take a very recent example. You remember when the COVID came in, at that time, our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, asked everybody to switch off their supply and then uh, kind of run some, lit up some candles or diyas and all, right? So at that time, we didn't realize what is going in the background. But in the background, the utility companies and the grid companies, they spent countless number of hours to make sure that when people are going to switch on their appliances or their home load, there is not going to be another blackout. So why blackout happens? When there is a sudden surge in the current, it can blow off some of the components in your grid system, and then it can blow it off, and then there can be blackout. The reason why I'm making this point that IoT also enables us to tackle these kind of things. So how it enables, basically, we can know what is the load pattern in past few days, and which area is consuming more power and which area is consuming less power, and based on that data we can do the load sharing. We can plan our things ahead. So suppose the case when there was no IoT and there was no means of knowing, I mean, which area consumes how much energy, it would have been almost impossible for the grid companies to really plan out how to take care of these kind of blackout situations. But now, since we have all these data available to these companies, they can really predict and manage their load sharing related stuff so that there are no further blackouts. So since 2013 and 14, there had been many developments in India as well as outside India on these kind of applications. And this is a very good example of how businesses are getting integrated into IoT and how they are an integral part of IoT. So that's what I explained, I mean, just now. So this is the last point. Now coming to the governance part of the IoT. So when we say the governance, so basically in governance part, we have different stakeholders which really oversees lots of developments that that go in IoT development or standardization. So what I mean to say, we can't just design and sell anything in the market just like that. It has to have certain level of maturity. It has to have certain level of operability. That's the reason why we have certification. And if you can recall from yesterday's slide, the third phase, the end product phase, really has a big chunk of effort going into certification. So from where does all this certification come? So these certification or these standards come from standardization bodies, government bodies, as well as some of the companies. And these government bodies, companies, and standardization bodies, these all constitute this governance part of the IoT ecosystem. And if we don't have these kind of companies, then I don't believe that there would have been any kind of IoT adaptation at all, because everybody might have been creating their own standards, their own protocol, and there would have been no interoperability at all. And hence, there wouldn't have been a combination of devices working in your home. So, what I need to say, as I mentioned when I was explaining the gateway, that you may have different devices. One may be running at Wi-Fi, one may be running at Bluetooth, one may be running at Zigbee, all connected to your what do we call it, to your gateway. if you go another layer down, actually all these three terminology or all these three protocols are running at 2.4 gigahertz frequency, and these are nothing but some of the protocols agreed set of rules that we had on which we designed this protocol. And suppose we didn't had these protocols and everybody was running their own payload based on whatever they like, so we couldn't have been able to build any gateway which can interoperate these things. So in order to address all these things, we had the standardization bodies. So those are an integral part of IoT system which we generally neglect. So I already gave you almost the entire gist of this slide. So let's go through the slide as well. So yeah, interaction of different stakeholders for IoT related governance. And we have the standardization bodies. So there are some frameworks, for example, HealthKit, HomeKit, Thread. All these are, some are meant for the health related data, some are meant for smart home related applications. For communication, you have Ethernet, Modbus, meters and more, and these kind of things. Basically, what I'm trying to say, instead of reading whatever is written over there, I already gave you a hint of what I meant. That in order to have interoperability and have a standard playground, we need to have standardization bodies who take care of that everybody is following some sort of standard, and we have some interoperability over there. And then we have regulators or the government body from whom we need to get certifications before selling our products in the market. For example, FCC or CE certifications, or some of the standards from IEEE or IEC. These come into picture when we, for example, for metering, you have different standards from IEC. For other kind of application, you have certain standards for IEEE. For example, for 18.0, 8.0.15.4, all these kind of standards are coming from IEEE. So these regulators also comes into picture, that when you have to design your product or sell your product, you have to get certifications from these regulators so that it is guaranteed that your device is really going to work in real world scenario. And similarly, we have companies and platforms which basically, what these companies generally do, if you go to any of the consortium or if you go to any regulator, you will find that most of the consortiums are made up or are are comprising of participants from these companies. So these are the major players, not just these, there may be 50 or 100 companies who are having a niche in certain fields. So they actually participate in these kind of governance body or the standardization body in order to drive what should be incorporated and what should be left out of the standardization document, so that we whatever we see is already kind of agreed between major players, and which is also kind of taken care or kind of already discussed by the people who are very well experienced in these fields. So eventually, we talked about all the six layers or all the six parts of IoT ecosystem, starting from our actuation or acquisition part, to the access part, to the storage or the cloud part, to the integration part, to the interaction part where the user is interacting with your system using user interface or something. And then we talked about the governance part, which is the current slide. So these are the parts of the IoT ecosystem. And now let's see an example of smart home system. So this example is just to kind of create a connection between what we just discussed and how it really translates into a real example. Okay, use case. Yeah, use case, basically how you are really going to make use of that data. Okay, so give me a moment. Let me drink some water. Okay, so you're seeing a smart home architecture over here, and this is a very simple example. And here, if you see, we have two smart devices. So as you can see, you have two nodes, I would say, over here. One is the smart bulb and one is the smart switch, right? And if you see, both has two or three things in common. They have a controller, which is the MCU that will be controlling. They have a thing, or they have something that interacts with the physical world. So for example, in your smart bulb, you have a bulb which is interacting with the physical world by giving them light. And in the smart switch, you have a switch which can be turned on and turned off manually, that is the physically, as well as it can be turned on or turned off by the user, which we'll just discuss. And then on the smart switch side, you have a sensor as well as, and on the smart bulb side, you also have some kind of manual switch that you can use to turn on or turn off the system. And then you have a gateway which is connected to both the nodes, and there you have a network device as well as an IoT device. So you have two transceivers. So one may be connected to your, so the network device is basically connected to your internet service provider, and the IoT device is basically connected to your smart switch and the smart bulb. If they are on BLE, it will be connected on BLE. From BLE, I mean Bluetooth Low Energy. And then this IoT gateway is connected to your cloud. And there, the green color dotted line is showing the data that is going from the IoT to the gateway to the cloud. And then from cloud, this data is going to an application. Okay, this data is getting computed or compiled over there in the cloud as well. And if you remember, I talked about an interaction layer. So you can see there is a mobile application shown over there, which is getting used by the user. So user is interacting with that mobile application, and with that mobile application, he or she can connect to the cloud, and then from the cloud, you see there is a line in the blue color, the control data, right? So with that, you can see that user can interact with the device in two ways. One way, they can directly interact with the device. You can see the user can directly access the smart switch locally, as well as the user can interact with the device via gateway as well. If you see the user directly connecting to the smart switch, at the same time, the user is using the application, then connecting to the cloud, and then from cloud, it is connecting to the gateway, and then from the gateway, it is connecting to the smart bulb. So here in this application, we are going to control a smart bulb via a smart switch as well as via a cloud. So if the user want to uh, control the smart switch, the smart bulb using smart switch, so what he or she will do, he will locally interact with the smart switch via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, whatever means is there. And then smart switch will sense whatever input is given by the user, and then that smart switch, which is not directly connected to the smart bulb, is going to take the route from the gateway. So smart switch is going to give the command to the gateway, and then that gateway is going to address to that command, and then eventually going to connect to the smart bulb and giving the command to on or off. Similarly, if user wants to interact with the smart bulb when he's at remote location, then he or she can just use the application, go to the cloud, and then they will have some APIs that will understand what user is saying. And then that API will in turn trigger another API or trigger a command to the gateway, because that's the only way for the cloud to reach to the smart bulb. So the cloud will interact with the gateway through the network or through the internet service provider. And then the gateway will understand the command that it got from the cloud, and then it will in turn access the smart bulb and turn it on or turn it off based on what command it has got from the cloud. So gateway is nowhere directly connected to the user. It is getting access either through cloud or through the smart switch. So this is one use case. You can tweak around with this use case, whatever suits you. This use case was just to give you an idea of how an IoT system real architecture looks like. So initially in the 3-layer architecture, we talked bit more on philosophical level, that how the architecture is. And in this diagram, we talk bit more into in-depth technologically, how we control a remote appliance or one of the node of your IoT system. So that was one of the example which I just gave. And tomorrow I will explain, I mean, what we are going to design tomorrow. It is going to be similar thing, but we'll address three major concerns that are challenges in IoT system design, which I'm going to talk about in next slide. So basically, there are three major things that that we need to address whenever we design an IoT system, and we call it 3 F's. security, scalability, and the sustainability. So for security, we sometimes use encryption, sometimes we use some certificates, TLS certificate or some other certificates that has to be authenticated by the device management side of your gateway as well as the device management side of your cloud. And at the very same time, to address the security at your user side, there is an authentication mechanism that is also built in your cloud services, which authenticates when a user wants to access the IoT device by logging in to the system. So with the security, we take care of that no unauthorized access is going to be there in your IoT ecosystem or your IoT system. From scalability, I already discussed about this point when I was talking about nodes and the device management. So your system should be capable of scaling to next level of the scale when your device really starts getting or hitting the ground, when you have more and more devices connected to your system. If you remember yesterday when I showed one slide where I showed how the number of devices connected to internet has risen, and we are going to expect 75 billion devices by 2025. Now, you can assume from that aspect that how much scalable our system should be. So whatever we are seeing today, tomorrow we are going to see an explosion of number of devices that are going to be connected to your system. So your system should be capable enough of addressing that scalability. And the third thing is the sustainability. Sustainability is basically talks about the robustness. So you remember I talked about edge computing, and I also talked about why we really need edge computing. Because sometimes if your nodes go out of the system due to some kind of interference in your connectivity, then it shouldn't be crashing your entire system. So we have to design our system in such a way that it takes care of all these corner cases. So these three things, which we call 3S of IoT system, are major challenges which has really posed upon lots of troubles or lots of roadblocks even today when we go about designing the system. And tomorrow we are going to talk about. I have one example in my mind. Maybe we'll talk about that example. I just encourage you guys to go to internet when this session is over and really read a little bit about AWS IoT, because tomorrow we are going to use AWS IoT components to design a system, and the system that we are going to design is going to take almost everything into consideration which we discussed today. What I mean to say, it is going to address all these three major challenges, that is the security, scalability, and the sustainability. At the very same time, it is also going to talk about the user interaction. How are we going to take care of user interaction locally as well as remotely? So we are going to address all these points which we discussed. And this was the last slide for my today's presentation. So let's recap whatever we had discussed so far. So basically, first we discussed about three-layer architecture, which is the general architecture that has perception layer, network layer, and the cloud layer. So we had three layers. At the perception layers, we had nodes. At the gateway layer or at the network layer, we have the gateways which connect or which sits between node and the cloud. And at the cloud layer, we had the analysis and all the analytics kind of stuff. Then we spoke about 6 different parts of the IoT ecosystem, which were the acquisition part, the access part, the analysis part, the interaction part, the integration part, and the governance part. So at the acquisition part, we talk about the nodes. At the access part, we talked about the gateway. At the analysis part, we talked about the backend or the cloud. At the interaction part, we talked about the user interface or the user interaction. At the integration part, we talked about how businesses are making use of IoT and how businesses integrate into IoT related data that we get. And at the governance layer, we talked about how different stakeholders really matter in an IoT system, how standardization body, how governance body, and how the companies, the major players in IoT really affects or really put significance in our IoT related ecosystem. And then we spoke about one of the example of smart home appliance, where we controlled our smart bulb using remote remote smart switch as well as using the cloud. So there we saw how our node is connected to the gateway and how our gateway is connected to the cloud, and then how a user interacts with the cloud in order to access the device remotely, and how user interacts locally to one of the device, one of the node of the IoT, which was the smart switch in that example, and how they can locally connect to the end node. So that can also be an example of sustainability or the robustness. Suppose your gateway got out of your internet connectivity and it cannot connect to the cloud. And if you are available local, or if you can get hold of your smart switch, then also you can turn on or turn off your smart bulb remotely, or at least locally. But when you're sitting in some other room, you're not going there physically. And if your cloud connectivity is broken, so how you can really have a robust system and how you can access it. So those were the technical stuff that we spoke about, and in the end, we spoke about three major considerations that we have to think when we design an IoT system, which is the security, scalability, and sustainability. And as I mentioned, that tomorrow we are going to design an IoT system. Basically, from design, what I mean, because it's a webinar and I don't know how to demonstrate these things. So tomorrow we are going to dip bit more deeper into an IoT architecture for a real application case, and then we will use the offerings from one of the major IoT system provider or the IoT related component provider, that is the Amazon, and we are going to use their offerings, and then we are going to address whatever things that we discussed today. So that was all about today's session. I hope you might have taken some notes, and I believe that you must be having some questions. So now it's time to take the questions. And before questions, I will take a pause of 30 seconds. In the meantime, maybe Sarita Bhan ma'am can coordinate.
Yeah,
Okay, over
Vikas.
to Sarita Bhan ma'am.
Thank you for such a wonderful session, Vikas sir. I would like to put up the questions that have come from the participants in front of you. The first
Mm-hmm.
question is from Vishal Vilwas. He is asking
Mm-hmm.
which type of data can be stealed by the TikTok-like app using AI, artificial intelligence.
Okay,
I,
so the very, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Let me, uh,
I hope the
let me give
question is
you,
audible.
yeah, question is audible, and I will actually answer this question more in a holistic way, not just TikTok, how your data can be stolen and how it's a big market to really steal the data and how it really affects. Let me give you an example. Okay, it will be a bit in a layman terms. Whenever we install an application in our phone, I don't feel that even single person reads about the terms and conditions. We just go and click yes, I agree, right? And then
Right.
for example, since the question is specifically asked for the TikTok, but generally these kind of applications are sitting in your smartphone, and in your smartphone you have almost everything. You have lots of sensors, it has camera, it has microphone, it has speaker, it has all the sensors. Actually your phone is listening to you, whatever you are speaking. You say that, okay, when I say hey Google, then only my Google phone or my Android phone wakes up. When I say hey Siri, then only my Apple or my iPhone wakes up. No, they actually are listening everything whatever you are saying, because this is just a machine learning algorithm which is running inside your phone, which recognizes your phrase hey Siri when it wakes up. Let me give you an example. Okay, I am deviating a little bit from this question, but it is important to make you understand how things work. And it actually happened just now, that I said hey Siri and I didn't meant my Siri to wake up, and it just woke up. So basically, she is listening whatever I'm saying, and right now I'm not meaning to wake her up. So same way, sometimes what happens when we are in a meeting, we say something which sounds similar to "Hey Siri," Siri wakes up. What does it really mean? That means Siri is listening, or my iPhone is listening everything whatever I'm saying right now. That means I have given access to that application to my microphone. Same way, I have given access to my location. I have given application access to my camera, especially for you, the TikTok related question. TikTok, generally people use the camera, right? So it has access to your face camera, right? And that means it has access to lots of components or lots of resources on your phone. And if a malfunction happens to the server of TikTok, somebody else will have access to each and everything that a user's profile or user's phone is having, or the user's phone is facing to. Let's say only the camera, right? So the TikTok has access to the camera and your location. And suppose somebody compromises your phone, or somebody compromises to your TikTok server, because compromises can happen at any level. It is very easy to compromise for your phone, but it is a bit difficult to compromise the TikTok's own server. But let's say it gets compromised. So the user can steal all these relevant data. They can know whatever you are doing, because your phone is always there in front of you nowadays. You're always sitting in front of your phone. They know what you are doing. They know what you are saying. They know everything, right? So it's a huge, huge breach. And actually, the moment you buy a smartphone, you're actually losing your confidentiality. So now you can quantify, I mean, what damages it can do if things get compromised. And that's why security is the most important. Forget about scalability, forget about anything. If you can't secure an IoT system, don't get into it.
Right, right. Thank you, Vikas sir. Now there is one more question from Mr. Vinod Kumar, and he is asking: we are using SCADA system for energy management. So, what are the advantages of IoT over SCADA?
Mhm. Okay, maybe I will answer this question tomorrow, because I'm not that much familiar with SCADA as
SCADA,
such.
okay.
But actually, as far as I know, little bit as a layman, SCADA is majorly used in industrial setup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me give some insights on what we can do over here. Actually, the SCADA-based systems are cyber-physical systems. You remember I spoke about cyber-physical
Yeah,
system
yeah.
yesterday,
Right,
right? So
right.
SCADA is actually SCADA is nothing but a protocol, actually, right? And these all are used in cyber-physical systems. So eventually, when you say SCADA or something, it is more meant to control, if I understand it reasonably, right?
Right,
So
right.
IoT, I mean, when we say IoT, from my understanding, there is no need to replace your SCADA with IoT, because IoT is not a protocol, a single protocol. IoT is a field, right? So you can make use of your industrial setup, which maybe using SCADA or something else can, or whatever, right? But it can become a part of your entire
Right,
IoT ecosystem, right?
right,
And
right.
from that, you can get whatever data that your SCADA or whatever algorithm or whatever communication protocol is happening over there. You can make use of that data. You can have certain insights into it, and then maybe you can take control based on that data. So we have to understand again, and we have to recall again, IoT is not a protocol. IoT is a field. IoT is a concept, and it's up to us how are we going to make use of it. I'm not sure whether I clarified or answered the question correctly, but based on my understanding, this is what I can tell you right now. But Mr. Vinod, maybe you can put
Yeah.
up your question to Sarita Bhan ma'am for further clarification if you need.
Yeah, sure. We'll do that. One
Mhm.
more question is from Palash Kundu, and the question is: what are the major subsections for researching in IoT platform which will exist in next 4 to 5 years? I'll repeat:
Sorry,
what are the major subsections for research in IoT platform which will exist in next 4 to 5 years?
hmm. Actually, when we say next 4 to 5 years, actually, if I have to tell you frankly, right now, the major development or major research that is happening in IoT is on two or three things that again comes back to the three S which I just spoke about, right? So even when we talk about platform, and also from platform, what I really mean, or what it really means from the platform is, for example, AWS. AWS IoT is a platform, that is platform as a service, right?
Right.
So they are key. So 2 or 3 years ago, it was just the AWS IoT core. Now what they are doing, they are adding in these IoT AI, IoT machine learning, these kind of modules in their offerings. So that's where the platforms are getting advanced. From advancement, what I mean to say, companies or the yeah companies, it's not a research area, I would say, because research area is machine learning, right? But the companies, what they are doing, they are customizing these algorithms and these things to directly target to a particular segment. For example, IoT, right? So they are targeting or they are creating APIs or these kind of inbuilt applications or inbuilt, I would say, handlers that may be directly used for industrial IoT or smart grid or uh, smart things or these kind of things. However, coming back to the question, if I talk about research, right now the research is in the terms of IoT, research is majorly focusing on AIoT, the artificial intelligence in IoT. That is one of the major research area where majority of the research are happening. And the second research which is happening majorly in the sphere of IoT is to tackle these three things. I mean the security, the scalability, and the sustainability. Let me give you an example of two researches that I can explain. In security, we are trying to, okay, let me give you an example. But again, it is not just linked to IoT platform. Okay, coming back to the example. So, for example, the security, in security, especially the compromise in IoT, the major prone place is the node, right? So what happens? People try to, or the hackers try to access your MCU, your chip, which is sitting at the node. They try
Right.
to get hold of it, right? So right now, one of the major research where even we are investigating is the security over there at the device level. That if it gets compromised, how are we going to tackle it? So that is one of the major research area where the major focus or major shift is going to. And then the other area where I see lots of research going on is related to the scalability, related to the sustainability, which is more related to the connectivity. So now, since we have more and more data that is getting generated, and our funnel or our connectivity link is having a defined bandwidth, right? So we are trying to play around with the data to how are we going to compress it and how are we going to make use of or make the best use of the bandwidth that is available and the connectivity that we are going. That is another layer where I see lots of challenges and lots of research going on. So research are going on all the three layers as far as the IoT is concerned. And major researches that I have seen are happening in the terms of security and the sustainability part, that is the connectivity part. And another research area is the IoT, the AI and machine learning on edge, how we can customize or how we can scale down our machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms to run these algorithms on the edge side, so that even if there is some kind of connectivity issue or some kind of actions need to be taken at the local level, we can tackle that. But again, if you map out all these things, everything will point towards these three S.
Right. The last question is from Megha Diwan. She is asking, is artificial intelligence and machine learning necessary for IoT platform?
No, I would say it's not necessary if you can if you can write down your own algorithm, because these are like fields, but eventually these are algorithms, sophisticated algorithms. But uh, I mean, my question may be answered as a question itself. Then, if you don't have algorithm, or if you are not making use of any data, then why are we generating the data? AI and machine learning, as I wrote in one of my slides yesterday, that AI and machine learning are more of trendy words to some of the sophisticated algorithms. But eventually, as a computer scientist, I would say these are just algorithms to make sense of your data, make use of your data. And we have to make use of data, otherwise, why are we generating the data? So it's not really necessary that you do all the AI or machine learning related computation at your cloud level. If your application is not that intensive, that algorithm intensive, you can easily do away with that. There is no compulsion as such, because IoT is again is a field, is a concept.
Yeah,
How we perceive it
yeah.
is
Now
different.
my question related to this question only is,
Mhm.
I is it right to say that AI and ML will be necessary for IoT platform because they are making the processes related to IoT bit convenient, bit easier?
Yes, yes. I mean, that's why, as I mentioned previously, that for example, Amazon, they had this AWS IoT released 2 or 3 years ago, but then after that they customized their AI and machine learning related software offerings, and then they tweaked it to suit to the IoT requirements. They must have seen some kind of value addition into it, and the value addition is we have to make some kind of application based on the data that we are generating. So yes, to answer this question in a yes or no kind of condition, AI and machine learning you can't avoid. You eventually are going to use, because you have to make some use of that data.
Yeah, ultimately we want to develop the easier systems, the systems which will be
Yeah,
easier for the user end as well as for the developer end. So yes,
yeah.
I too believe that AI and ML are the important parts of IoT.
Just
One
one
question
thing,
from, yeah,
just one
yeah, yeah,
thing
yeah,
based
yeah,
on
sure.
this is, if you remember yesterday in one of the slides where I was telling you guys the definition of IoT, then I talked about one important trait that an IoT device should have, that
Hmm.
it should operate without any human intervention. And that's
Right.
what artificial intelligence is. Machine learning, actually, artificial intelligence is something that is going to make things happen artificially. Machine learning is again enabler of AI,
Yeah,
because
very
machine
nice.
learning is
Very,
an
yeah,
algorithm. Yeah. So yeah,
right, right,
that's how
right.
it is.
And one of the question from one of our student, Pranay Dua, he's asking,
Mhm.
where is IoT having vast area in future? I guess he wants to ask, what is the future of IoT? What will
Yeah,
be
yeah.
the
Okay.
applications of IoT in next, as you had yesterday mentioned that in around
Mhm.
2025 we are going to have around 75 billion devices will be IoT based. So
Mhm.
what would be those devices? I guess he has missed it,
Okay.
though you have
Uh, no
mentioned it.
problem. No
So
problem.
would request you to repeat it.
Let me explain this. Yeah, let me explain this. This is a very interesting and important question. And if you guys are okay with it, then I would actually prefer to show you a video.
Yeah,
It
sure,
is slightly
please.
long, like 5 minutes video, but
Yes, yes,
that
yes.
video will clarify how IoT is going to be. But
Yeah.
let me just take 30 seconds to explain something. Right now, IoT has not really penetrated that much. One thing, right? Second thing, right now we talk about industry 4.0, IIoT, IoT in healthcare and all. So actually in coming 1 or 2 years, you are going to see application of the IoT in a particular industry or in a particular use case, but eventually it is going to merge. Eventually all these, for example, a healthcare related IoT application is going to interact with your industrial IoT, and then it is going to interact uh, with your home based setup. Right now these are segregated, but tomorrow all these are going to interact with each other, and that's why tomorrow we are not going to call it IoT. Tomorrow means not tomorrow's session, but I mean in next gen we are going to call it IoE, Internet of Everything, where everything is connected to each other, be it people, be it machine, be it appliances, everything is going to be connected to each other. And without further delay, let me share that video so that it's easier for me to make make some insight into it.
Yeah.
It may take me 30 seconds to
Yeah, please.
unshare
It's
and
okay.
share.
We would really love to see that video. You wanted
Okay.
to, I remember you wanted to show it to us yesterday only.
Yeah, today I will be sharing some other video which is even
Okay.
better.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine, fine.
yeah. Give me 1 minute. Uh-huh. I just hope that audio works today. Okay. Yes, it's on YouTube. You guys can see it even on your own time. But let me show. It's not
You'll have to
right.
share the screen first.
Yeah, I will share it again. Right now, I'm just browsing through my internet. Give me a moment, please. Uh, Okay. Okay. This video was created by some university people, and I don't think that you really need voice as such for this. But let me. Okay, now I will share my screen. Okay. Uh-huh. Share, and let me. There was an option of share computer sound, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, it's
it seems
audible.
okay. You can see how light will change. You can see how people are going to help you with IoT system. You see how different support already people have arrived for when they arrive everything is very creative suddenly. I'm actually going to show a full day in the life, how from morning to evening we are going to make use of IoT to make your life easy. video. Okay, I think you might have got an idea of
Wonderful,
what
very
wonders
nice video.
can
It was really
actually your
nice.
whole. I mean, yeah, this is the next thing that is going to happen. You might have noticed two or three things, and in fact, I would like to mention two or three things from this video. You might have seen that it it was a very good use of IoT that all the things were connected and then there were processing happening in the backend, right? And then they
Hmm.
were making use of data, they were taking actions based on that, and there was no manual interaction or very minimal manual interactions required,
Right.
right? And this is the next thing that we are going to do, and that's where AI, machine learning, and all these things getting integrated with IoT, and you can't really avoid it if you want to really make use of IoT.
True.
Yeah.
Now I would like to invite Vinita Chaudhary ma'am to present the vote of thanks for today's session.
Good
Vinita
evening,
ma'am.
everyone. Edge fundamentals, gateway fundamentals, cloud fundamentals. Wow. Now we all know the major difference among these three and the different design considerations of IoT systems. Vikas sir, we all are grateful to you for sharing your expert knowledge with all of us and enlightening us more in the field of IoT system design. This has made us now more curious to know what is going to come in tomorrow's session. Thank you everyone whose active participation is motivating all of us to keep learning and sharing our individual experiences too on this platform regarding this workshop. I hope all of you are not going to forget to fill your attendance by clicking on the link by filling the necessary details as asked there. The link has been provided in chat window only and will remain within 10 minutes more. Thank you once again everyone. The information related to tomorrow's session will be shared by WhatsApp group by tomorrow morning only. Till then, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy and stay at home.